That's how I find music anyway. I suppose if I had chosen another path and become a pole dancer, which is still, I don't rule out, by the way, you know, I suppose that would be more, but I think of music, to actually sing, to perform music, even just to choose songs in front of an audience is a very intimate, exposing thing. To me, I think of it, I think of acting really. Acting is all about putting on masks of some kind. And music is all about removing them, really. When you're singing a song, you're telling a story, and sometimes that requires playing a character. But even so, there's something about music that is very intimate, and it is very exposing in a good way. I mean, you know, good exposing. It occurred to me when we were touring with the first record, I was aware of the fact, I became aware of the fact, I was look around the stage and see, this is a bunch of guys, we're a bunch of guys playing stuff, and this has got a sort of a guy feeling to it. Well, I mean, Gene MacLean was with us, but it still felt like a very male band, and I wanted there to be, because in my mind, to my mind, so much of this music actually originates with women. You could almost argue that all music originates with women. In my theory is that it ultimately comes from a mother soothing a baby. That's where all music comes from. And it's certainly the biggest sort of blues and jazz singers in the beginning, you know, Bessie Smith and Ma Rainey, and you know, these were the huge stars. They really sort of defined the field. And then, of course, men turn up with guitars and start shredding. And I wanted to sort of get back to something that had a more feminine, not feminine, female, I don't know which I mean actually, but something that was more about a dialogue, that had a sort of a slightly actually romantic feel to it. That wasn't just songs about men going, you know, my baby done left me, you know, and then now 4 verses and wow. I wanted something that was a bit more courtly in a way, that was about a dialogue between men and women. And so we have a wonderful trombone player, Elizabeth Lee, who's absolutely incredible. Gene MacLean is singing again on this album, and also Gabby Moreno, who is just incredible. So it feels more sort of balanced. There's more romance to it, more sort of, I don't dare use the word seduction, but oh wait, I just did. It feels more like there's a sort of flotation going on around the band, which I really, I think has given it a whole new energy, which I really enjoy. It's not a burden exactly, it's just a responsibility that I think, and particularly as a foreigner, because I know I'm trespassing on American music, and I feel like if you're going to do someone else's folk music, you'd better get it right, you know. I don't know, sometimes I don't, the idea of being true to something is not about necessarily arrangements or, you know, staying true to a particular melody or a way of doing something. You can be true to the spirit of something in a million different ways. The spirit is the important thing. And I think also a respect for the origins of this music, a sort of reverence for it, which I have, you know, and I've grown up with. I would fight any man who would disrespect this music. The producer, Joe Henry, and I both have a sort of, it so happens that we have when we're talking to each other, we tend to use a very sort of cinematic language. I don't know why that is. It's one of the reasons that maybe that we hit it off so quickly. We just use the same vocabulary. So when we're talking about a song, even though we're talking about sounds, we describe it in visual terms. You know, the song, we should feel this dusty road, and there's a guy in the distance, and then we get closer and we see that actually it's not a guy, or whatever it is. We're actually sort of describing visual scenes, and that's how we both think of it, as casting characters as musicians, but also characters as storytellers in the songs, and also casting the songs themselves. Each song has a particular sound and voice and character presence that sort of fills out the record, we hope. I mean, that was our goal anyway. Yes, I'm an actor, and I suppose I have performed on stage a lot. Speaking as the latecomer musician, I mean, because all these musicians in this band, they have got a lot of miles. They played with everybody, they've recorded with everybody. There's not a thing they can't play. That's not true for me. I'm this guy, trying to do the best that I can. I feel that my job is to, apart from introducing them to the audience and presenting the music, I feel that I have to bring a different kind of energy, which isn't just purely musical. At least it better not be purely musical, because I don't have the chops to do that. I have to bring something else, which is a kind of, it's part master of ceremonies and it's part sort of host of a party, and it's part storyteller. Now, settle down, children, while I tell you a story. It's a sort of mixture of all of those things. I think is that I feel like that's my job, and in doing that, I sort of present these musicians and these songs to an audience who may or may not know them. I mean, some songs are well known and some aren't. If people come away knowing a bit more, or having heard a song, or curious to know who was Lil Green, or who was Kansas Joe McCoy, why have I never heard these names? What did they do? And if they then find that Lil Green was, one of the greatest singers of all time, and yet died tragically young, and nobody knows anything about her, or very little. If anybody goes away from one of our shows with that sort of curiosity or that enthusiasm, then I for one would be honoured. That would be a great honour.